Yeah, so just for clarification, we have four more predictions left to go. Next one up is George Gilder. And many of you may know who George is. If you don't know him from recent times, you probably know him from the late 90s. He was a big technologist and still is, futurist. He's really a living legend. He was Ronald Reagan's most quoted living author. This book was the one that really set him. I don't know if I can't see the screen, but I think you can see that, Matt. Yeah, Matt's muted, I think. So anyway.
Oh, I lost. I did the muted talk.
Yeah,
yes, I can see it, Doug.
Okay. Yeah, Wealth and Poverty was George's first big book, sold millions of copies. Reagan quoted him more than any other living author at the time. He was also in the White House to hand Ronald Reagan the first microchip, and I forget which one it is, a 16K microchip or something. And he told President Reagan at the time, this device will change the world, and indeed it did. He predicted smartphones in his book Life After Television 14 years prior to Apple's revealing of the iPhone. Streaming services like Netflix and Hulu were also predicted in books that George wrote. And he even pinpointed Amazon before it went on its big historic rise of 240,000%. And so what we asked George to do for this event, and again, he apologizes for not being here live, but we recorded something yesterday. As we were recording this, I was pacing around in the background. I'm like, okay, we've got to make this really good. I was blown away. Matt, I told you this yesterday. I'm like, this is fantastic. You guys are going to love this. So I don't have the video. I guess I could play it, but I think
just so everybody knows, right? This video has been nowhere. This is the live debut. No one has heard this. This was an exclusive recording. Everything was recorded, and we're going to hit the go button on it right now. So if our production room can hit the go button, we'll see if we can share screen there.
Yeah, enjoy.
And if not, I'll go ahead and do it. All right, here we go. Awesome.
Hi, well, thank you for coming to the Six Predictions Summit. And I have a prediction that is fundamental to the whole world economy. And it relates to the prevailing delusion that currently pervades and paralyzes economic activity all around the world. And that delusion is that money is intrinsically a government function, that money is an aspect of sovereignty. This is a misconception. Throughout history, most of the time, money has been essentially measured by gold. Money represents a certain number of grams or troy ounces of gold. That's what money has been. And thus, all the monies in the world in the past were unified by their reference to a particular value of gold. Today, monies have broken free of all constraints. They no longer measure anything. They are not a measuring stick at all, not a measuring stick of value. They're a magic wand for central banks to manipulate and exploit the economy and collectively steal from the future, steal from your children and grandchildren to fund particular favored constituencies of politicians today. The biggest industry in the world economy today is not food, shelter, transportation, healthcare, anything like that. The biggest industry in the world economy today is currency trading, just shuffling currencies to make up for the absence of any anchor in the value of gold. As currency trading is now close to $8 trillion a day. It's up 50% in the last 4 years, while the economies of the world have been basically stagnant with COVID and all. So this is really a scandal of money, as I put it in my book in 2015. And the scandal of money, and I begin the scandal of money by quoting Friedrich Hayek. The root and source of all monetary evil is government control and manipulation of money. That's Nobel laureate, Austrian economic titan Friedrich von Hayek. Now, last week, I've spent most of my time at a conference called CoinGeek. And this sounds like a kind of nerdy conference in New York, where I believe that the solution to this crisis, the scandal of money, has been developed. And the person who developed it, it shouldn't surprise you, is Satoshi Nakamoto, the author of the original document that launched BitCoin back in 1999. So, but the solution is not the original Bitcoin. It's not BTC, but it's Satoshi's Bitcoin. It's called Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, and it forked away from Bitcoin several years ago, and it's now rapidly taking over the world of cryptocurrency transactions. But before I learned about this at a long dinner at the Quality Bistro in New York, 3-hour dinner with Craig Wright, the Australian rogue who was the original Satoshi Nakamoto, and the two chief sources of his ideas, the real inventors of blockchain, as Satoshi himself has acknowledged. And today we'll tell you that Scott Stornetta and Stuart Haber. Scott Stornetta worked at Xerox PARC, which was the source of many of the key inventions of the computer revolution, including the mouse and Xerox Ethernet. Xerox PARC is really the source, and Scott Stornetta was there and moved on to Bell Labs, or Bellcore, the later version of Bell Labs, and worked with Stuart Haber, also at Bellcore, a Stanford mathematician, to develop the blockchain, which is the foundation of all these cryptocurrencies, and really the foundation for a new world economy based on overcoming the dual hacking crises that the current economy faces. The hacking of the internet by spies and hustlers and phishers and all these, and the hacking of world money by central banks. And the solution to both these crises is the blockchain. And I believe that the best blockchain today is Satoshi's blockchain. During that dinner in New York with Craig Wright and Scott Stornetta and Stuart Haber, where they immerse themselves in all the intricacies of blockchain science. And I got a real vision of the inner workings of Satoshi's mind, because these people really were the source of this technology. And my prediction for today is that this insight they had about blockchains, which provide a foundation of truth, a foundation of factuality, a foundation of immutable value to any digital system, that blockchain will restore global money over the next 5 to 10 years, that over the next 5 to 10 years, all global money will migrate ultimately to blockchains, to distributed ledgers, as they call them, a ground state of truth, a measuring stick as valid and immutable as the measuring stick of gold that sustained the world economy through the Industrial Revolution, that made it possible for the little island of Britain to create an empire on which the sun never set. All that stemmed from Isaac Newton as essentially master of the mint in the early 17th century and early 18th century in England, launched the gold standard and proved that gold could not be hacked. And just as gold cannot be hacked, the blockchain ultimately cannot be hacked. And because of that, it will be the measuring stick. It will be the foundation of future world money. And I think today, the best way to bet on the blockchain is to go back to Satoshi and Stornetta and Haber, the real sources of blockchain technology, this great invention, and adopt BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi vision. And the Bitcoin Satoshi vision has really created a miracle in recent months. Rather than the static Bitcoin, which people hold on for dear life, it's a dynamic Bitcoin that moves with the advance of technology, the Moore's Law, biannual doubling of computer power and an expansion of bandwidth. And because of this, the new Satoshi vision this year is now become the source of the biggest number of transactions of all cryptocurrencies. Its capability, its block size is 2,000 times the block size of the original BTC Bitcoin that has this cramped 1 megabyte block size. And last month, BSV accomplished 4 or 5 times as many transactions as Bitcoin itself. And it really is vindicating Craig Wright's vision that the blockchain can expand with the world economy. It can endow new wealth, can create a new platform for creativity and prosperity. And you can buy it at Bitforex or Qcoin, these exchanges. There are various ways you can purchase BSV. And you purchase it in the knowledge that you aren't just holding on for dear life. You're actually contributing to a revolutionary change both in the internet and in the world economy. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Hey, Matt, I'm just going to jump in here because I hope everyone had the same response to that discussion as I did when I first heard it yesterday. So there are a lot of questions floating around here. When I first brought this video to Matt yesterday, he's like, "Where's the ticker for BSV?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not a ticker; it's a coin, right? So it's a crypto coin. It's called BitCoin Satoshi Vision. B as in boy, S as in Sam, V as in Victor."
Yeah, I think this is it on Coinbase, but there's other places where you can look it up. But that was my thing because I haven't seen that video until just now. But when Doug was saying it, because we were just double checking like prediction and takeaway, I just started looking up the ticker. I'm like, where's the ticker? What's the ticker? Yeah. And I realized I really did have like a God moment at that point. I'm like, that's a sign of the times. I think I'm part of the old world. And I thought it was a ticker. And these things aren't tickers, they're coins. You know, right. I know we're going to cover more of this later in the call, but that's big. And what he's saying is big. And if you listen to all those words that he said, very, very big stuff there.
Yeah. And just to be clear, you can look it up on Coinbase, but you cannot buy it on Coinbase. George mentioned a couple exchanges. They're called exchanges, just like brokerage accounts for your stocks. There are different exchanges that hold different coins. KuCoin, that's KuCoin, is one of them. Bitforex is another. Someone listed a couple of others on here. Someone says Robinhood is one, and so on. You know, any of these that make that transaction, BSV is the coin that George was just talking about. So, and I think that's it. I think those are the main things that I saw coming through on the questions. So that's all. So thanks, Matt.